970 AM, 104.9 FM, KSYL. It's Talkback with Matthew Dunn and Jim Leggett, Central Louisiana's longest-running talk show. Call 442-8255, 442-TALK. Whether it's the guests or the calls, Talkback is where Central Louisiana begins its conversation.
Hour number 2 off and rolling here on Central Louisiana's longest-running talk show. Good morning if you're just joining us. I'm your host, Matthew Dunn, joined as always by our political analyst, Jim Leggett. If it's this time, usually once a month, we are thrilled and honored, as always, to be joined by the mayor of the city of Pineville, Mayor Clarence Fields. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Look, I'm impressed. I have these hearing aids, and I thought I got them just to do this show, and now y'all have new headphones. And wow.
We aim to please.
At all.
Yeah. We just want to make sure if you didn't have enough coffee this morning that you were rising to the moon. So
I'm sure people can hear me breathing.
Well, Dave Grayson always he would get on us about the sound wasn't right and all that. It was the earphones all along.
Who knew that it was something as simple as earphones? It took a Rod Knowles just debacle when he was here one time for us to finally. Rich was the one who figured it out. Rich Joyce, our chief engineer and chief producer here, executive producer, came in and he goes, "It sounds like to me it's the headphones." Yeah. And I was like, "What do you know, Rich? You're crazy." And lo and behold, he was exactly right. So anyway, welcome back, Mayor.
Good to be here.
Recap, if you could. I know that the last time we talked with you, and then we had some conversations on the side with Rich Dupree and on the side with Doug Gann. And the Pineville Light the Night Parade had been moved, although apparently, especially for a Monday evening in Central Louisiana, I heard nothing but great things. Holly Conway, my new best friend.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, all those good things. Tell us about it.
She's becoming a figure here in Central Louisiana, I tell you. I think she's scheduled to come back here pretty soon or whatever, but we enjoy her so much, I tell you. She's our grand marshal. So who other than Miss Louisiana to highlight, particularly with a Mardi Gras parade that's, in the evening, at night, all lit up and all the above. And believe me, she illuminates it even more so or whatever. So we appreciate her being involved. Yeah, finally, it really, for a Monday evening parade after a weekend on a school night, on a business day, it unexpectedly turned out to be a really great parade. And my appreciation to the city of Alexandria for their participation. It's nothing like rolling into Alexandria, rolling into your neighbor's community, and enjoying an evening together and doing some special things. So my appreciation to all those who work with all of our people who worked. A lot of people won't realize, and I'll tell you, had it been left up to me, and it's a good thing I have a great team around me, and kind of advising you and all the above. After the having to move it, or actually after not doing it on that particular Friday, had it been left up to me, I probably would have canceled it. But thanks to advisors and all the above, we rolled with it anyway on that Monday evening, and thanks to all the media folks, up on the float, they had their own float. That was it. That was quite interesting also. But hey, we appreciate them covering it. But it turned out to be really good. The evening
especially interesting to me because they spotted me because I was watching from the sideline.
Exactly.
And they bombarded me. I thought I was in the war.
Well, that's what happens when you're all, it's like, the gym was like some kid that picked this spot all by himself. So what you expect then to get bombarded?
I did.
That was completely planned. He wanted the beads. I don't care what Jim says. So
yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
he might as well have been in a boat on the river.
That's right. Exactly.
Mardi Gras, and for instance, I'll give you the South Louisiana perspective on it. I'm dating a girl from Gonzales, and she came up here for some of the festivities, and she even said, "I didn't know Central Louisiana even had a Mardi Gras." But it's become such a big deal And not only, and I'm glad, because for a while it was mainly an Alexandria thing. I'm glad that not only Pineville, but our friends over in Ball have their own parade.
Right, exactly.
I mean, it has truly become a bit. And I know that the Alexandria Mardi Gras Association now gets involved with the whole area.
Oh, they do a tremendous job, I tell you.
Right, and their backing and their support and their help, because they've done this for 20 some odd years
26.
now. Right, 26 years. It really shows that the area is serious about Mardi Gras.
I'm not sure how successful we could have been up to this point would it not be for folks like that, the Mardi Gras Association getting involved, and when you start having to coordinate floats, and there's a lot to that, when you're coordinating. It's not like you're coordinating, motorcycles and cars and things in a parade and dance groups and all the above. This is really a very it takes a lot of effort to pull this off because of the size of the things that you're using when it comes to the float in the parade.
On that very day, earlier in that day, I had a chance to see you speak at the North Rapids Business and Industry Alliance, of course, now Representative Mike Johnson's group that meets monthly. And you did your annual State of the City address for the city of Pineville. You said some interesting things, and I wrote a few things down, but I think I can remember them by memory right now. And one of the things that you said that got a little bit of play in the media is talking about water rates.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you could kind of elaborate on that.
And we will continually talk about that. And let me remind you, if people, the listening audience, and pay attention to particularly around our state of Louisiana, and there are 7, 8, I think they're up to about 8 communities right now in Louisiana that have been administratively taken over by the state of Louisiana because their water system are in such poor shape, and St. Joseph, Louisiana, I think that was one of those that really put it into light. Faraday, Louisiana being another one where literally the National Guard had to come in and offer help. A lot of that is because, particularly for smaller communities over all of these years, even though they're trying to be mindful of costs and things of that nature to the citizens that they serve, the upkeep of those water systems and all of the change. The expectations for our citizens that we provide them with the best of the best, and we believe that in the city of Pineville that we currently do that. A lot comes with that when you talk about, let's say, a water system, as to one, treating that water system, two, I can tell you right now, I'll give you a perfect example. Right now, since Friday, our water crews have been working on Main Street in Pineville. I encourage people, right down Main Street in Pineville, you'll see evidence over the past couple days since Friday. They've had somewhere near 11 or 12 water leaks because of the infrastructure. And those are the reasons why. What we charge is nowhere near what our responsibility is in maintaining that water system, the infrastructure. The infrastructure in downtown Pineville, we're talking 60 years old.
Wow.
And the best that we can do as far as when new development comes is we get that new infrastructure and we do some upgrades and all the above, but you still have the responsibility for the upkeep of that. I'll give you another perfect example. I have a water well on Webster Street. We have 12 water wells in the city of Pineville, okay? And rightfully so, because it takes that from a capacity standpoint. We are abandoning a well as we speak because its capacity, it no longer, serves its purpose for many different reasons, mechanically and all the above. So it's being abandoned, okay? But you have to upkeep those water wells and all of the other related equipment that goes in providing water and whatever it may be to the citizens of Pineville. That comes with a cost. And I give people examples. For instance, right now we charge $15.38 for 3,000 gallons of water. If you go into the store and you buy 1 case of water, 24 in a case bottles of water, that's 8 gallons of water, okay? You just think about it. On the average, $3.50 for a case of water. Okay, if you buy 4 cases, okay, then you almost meet that $15.38, and we sell you 3,000 gallons, where you buy 4 cases, which is 32 gallons. Now, mind you, also what you can't do with those bottles of water you can't do the everyday things you need to do at home. Bathe. On the average, it takes about 17 gallons of water to bathe in. If you shower, it's above 20 gallons. And you have to cook, you have to wash, you have to do all the other things. You can't use that bottled water, and you can't get enough of it to utilize your bathrooms. Okay, so those are the things that we're trying to educate people on, and the cost that it costs us to deliver that. But important down the road, we have to continually to maintain the system that you expect us. So we'll see some changes coming there because it's necessary. That does not go away, and that will be necessary.
You mentioned infrastructure too. It's funny too because, and you can see these in Pineville, but you especially see them in Alexandria. You might pass a ditch, and right above the ditch, they have a year of when the ditch was built, where the pipe was put in, and it might say something like 1936 or things like that. And I've seen those in Pineville too. So you're talking about infrastructure, and you mentioned sometimes it's 60-plus years old.
Well, and most of those pipes are galvanized.
That's the other problem. Yeah,
that's exactly the problem.
Exactly. So you look at that, too. People, obviously, just like they don't want to pay higher taxes, they don't want to pay any higher for their water, but it's you damned if you do, damned if you don't, because eventually you got to update the system.
Well, and go without water for a couple of days. You'll find out how valuable it is.
And unfortunately, sometimes the mindset may be that the mindset we're the last one on the totem pole that gets paid. To be very honest with you, the cable bill gets paid, the electric company gets paid, the gas company gets paid, and all the above. And we're pretty much the last one on that totem pole. Now, also let me remind you too. Take a hot water tank, 40, 50-gallon hot water tank, that has to be operated and all the above or whatever. So it's us educating people, even though nobody likes, we've had 3 water rate increases since I've been in office, and they've been very minimal. But we have to continue to upgrade our system and continue to provide people. You don't want brown water coming out of your faucet when you turn that faucet on. But there's a lot of communities around the state of Louisiana, that's where they are, and that's what's happening, unfortunately. And then the other part about that is a huge issue is the sewer side. The sewer plants and things of that nature, we have to discharge that, but there's a parameter that we have to discharge that where we discharge it into and all the above. So environmentally and all the above, we are scrutinized very heavily, and those come at a cost. You
have a message here via our Facebook page from a Joe Smith who says, Mayor, you ever heard of the company P&G and KSYL? Why make us pay for it when they should be the ones who cover the cost?
Well, they pay they pay their share also, and their rates are much higher. But here again, there's some things that you can impose, but their rates are higher, and their rates are going up too. We have an annual contract with folks like that, and it's different from a municipal or citizen or whatever. We have an annual contract with them.
I can tell you, and you're absolutely right, so I can tell this Mr. Joe here that I assure you that KSYL and P&G pay their fair share of just about everything.
Many different ways.
Right. Let's take a phone call for the mayor. Good morning. You're on with Mayor Fields.
Sure.
Hey, good morning, Mayor. Thank you for taking my call.
Morning.
We know with the DMV, there are private companies that pop up and can handle our DMV needs, and we can go there and get our license plates and renew our license, things like that. Are there any private companies that provide water services? And if anybody's thought about that, and I'll hang up and listen to you.
Thank you.
From my knowledge, there are very few private companies that provide water service. Other than, for instance, as far as the city of Pineville, if we did not have what we have, then we would have to go buy, and we would probably have to buy it from another municipality, a city of Alexandria and all the above or whatever. That's very difficult, capacity-wise and what it takes. But, we're all drawing from aquifers, and then we have to create the way to get that water out of the ground and all the above. Put it in the wells. Put it in the storage tanks and things of that nature or whatever. So some of your small municipalities, maybe there are some water companies that sell to them, but otherwise there's no water companies that you can just go buy water from, unless some company utilizes the water on the river and create something from that perspective. But that's a pretty expensive adventure. And then, of course, unfortunately, take for instance the Red River. My perspective, the uncertainty of the Red River, that's a whole nother thing. The environmental issues are really extraordinary.
It's funny you mentioned that, and I'm not trying to draw too much of a parallel, but Flint, Michigan invested
perfect example
tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars in trying to develop the river that flows through there into the water. What they get, the worst water crisis that ever hit, because they couldn't figure out a way to completely decontaminate the river water. So they have apparently their mayor and the officials have told and done interviews and have told other municipalities, don't make our same mistake.
Think about this too, from the sewer side of that also, most municipalities, I hate to use the word dump, but discharges into rivers and streams of that nature or whatever. But let me tell you, that's scrutinized very heavily as to what you and for us, we do it. But chemically, I can't tell you the hundreds of thousands of dollars it costs us in chemicals to make sure that when that water flows out of that pipe into the river from our sewer facilities, it is exactly what it ought to be. So there's it's interesting, but there are very few water companies, from my perspective, around the state of Louisiana that actually sell water to a lot of municipalities.
Let's go ahead and take a break. We come back, we'll talk about another liquid out there. I think you know where I'm going with that. Right after this.
You're listening to Talk Back with Matthew Dunn and Jim Leggett, broadcasting live from the Clark Dunbar Flooring Superstore Studios. 970 AM, 104.9 FM, KSYL.
Welcome back into Talk Back as we continue to discuss everything north of the river with Pineville Mayor Clarence Fields. Mayor, we've talked so much, and really this goes all the way back to November, that every time you've been here, we've talked about the alcohol situation. By now, we all know that the ordinance is passed. You guys have been working on implementation.
Correct.
And all of the things that go along with that. Now that when you look at it, and we talked about it briefly off the air, but I started to see Facebook posts and things like that of people saying, finally, I can buy this in Pineville, and took a big picture of wall-to-wall beer and booze all over the place that they can buy now. You guessed it. You hedged correctly. You guessed correctly, which was you said, I think you'll start seeing it in the first half of March.
Yeah.
Here we are. It started to happen. Where are we at right now?
Right now, the obviously the process has begun there. As I speak right now, I think there are probably 3 establishments from my knowledge on yesterday. Smoker's Paradise on Highway 28 East, Super One Foods, and also the Gary Both King Stop Chevron out on 165. They're currently in operations. There are others to come up and down Highway 28 East, and a few little moms and pops here and all the above. So it's everything's kind of falling in place. We have in place the ordinance and the laws. There's a process that has to be followed. That process is the same for everyone, whether you are a Walmart or whether you are a Smoker's Paradise. That process is consistent for everyone, and it's a pretty, it's a process that we put in place, and it's not unlike a lot of other communities. We did a few little things extra, whatever, that hopefully enables us to manage it the way we think we need to manage it, as far as after everything is completed and people begin to sell, and then we hold them accountable for what they do at their establishments, particularly the smaller package stores and things of that nature. So and we expect to see more and more come. Walmart, I think, is getting their paperwork together. I don't think they have anything in place relative to how they've transformed their facility to be able to do this and all the above. But I've not been to Super One yet. My wife was telling me she went there last night to do a little shopping, and she told me everything was in place. So it's moving along, and we got to see many more.
Have you noticed any increases in restaurant application? I mean, they already could do it, but Are there more coming?
We do have some now interested parties who are looking at, there are a couple strip centers that are looking at developing, and obviously part of those strip centers may be a restaurant included with that, okay, and a couple of other sites that people are looking at. We've seen the uptick in the interest level. There's absolutely no doubt about that. I think with time and hopefully with the change in the economy and all the above, we're going to see an uptick in people wanting to locate. Not just to do that, but I think just the fact that they may think now that they are able to compete and that they can now provide to people what they want to provide to people.
Let's take a phone call. Good morning. You're on with Mayor Fields. Go ahead.
Good morning, man. I have a question. Mayor Fields, what do you think the savings would be if you guys only picked up trash once a week as opposed to twice a week? Mm-hmm. Not counting the big stuff. I know the big stuff still needs to come out once a week.
Right.
But if you only went once a week, it seems like you'd save about a third of the cost of operating that business anyway, right?
Right, that's correct. Let me explain that. Believe me, we've looked at that. We're one of the few municipalities that continue to provide that service. As other municipalities either don't provide that service, or they contract it out, or it's privatized. We looked at the once a week initiative, also on the sanitation. We do sanitation twice a week, and then we do the trash pickup once a week. We've looked at that. Let me say this: our citizens currently pay, or we don't lose money in the sanitation and trash side of it. Okay, so if that's the issue, then so be it. But from an equipment standpoint and things of that nature, that's something that we have to think very seriously about in the future. But one thing we have to get people to understand at the same time also is that they need to buy into that and cooperate with us as we begin to whether it's privatized or whether we go to once a week. I would rather go to once a week than privatize. I would hate to lose control of. I don't want to see your trash sitting around for a week or sitting around for 2 weeks, particularly trash. Because currently, I think I can honestly say that's a rarity to see trash piles up everywhere. But that's something you have to consider. But once a week has been considered. It will continue to be considered. So just to let you know that. But currently, that particular part of the business pays for itself. The citizens pay for itself.
Well, let's take another call. Good morning. You're on with the mayor. Hello. Going once, going twice. Give us a call back.
Let me mention something on the gentleman was asking about the trash pickup or sanitation pickup.
Sure.
One of the keys to that particular operation, particularly here in Rapides Parish, the city of Alexander still does both of those also, is disposal cost. There is no landfill that's located within reach here in central Louisiana, other than the city of Pineville owns its own green waste landfill that's still permitted. So that's an advantage for us. But when sanitation has to be transferred somewhere else, and then that's an extra added cost because then it's shipped to Rayville, Louisiana, or something like that. So nobody wants a landfill in their backyard anymore, so that's a serious problem as to the location of landfills.
Yeah, I would imagine, even though Pineville seems to have a decent amount of land, I would imagine where do you put it is the big issue, because no one wants it near there. And you're already in a situation where certain winds can make things smell differently and all those things.
If from an administrative standpoint and asking me that question, where would I put it? I can't tell you I want to put it anywhere. The problem is the environmental part of that. One, getting it permitted. Two, the cost of keeping it up environmentally. I don't think we can afford that. Not the city of Pineville, I can tell you that. So that's a huge issue.
Well, the city of Pineville has a lot of fingerlets too. I mean, it isn't solid land all the way across.
Right.
And but the NIMBY is what you're calling.
Not in my backyard.
No, I don't think anybody remembers. There used to be a landfill for the parish out at Esther Field.
That's right.
In the Esther Field area. That's gone by the wayside many, many years ago, and you'll never see that come back again because environmentally you can't afford it.
Nope. We'll be right back. More with the mayor on the way.
You're You're listening to Talk Back on KSYL 970 AM and 104.9 FM. You can join the conversation by calling 442-8255. That's 442-TALK.
Back here, Tuesday edition of Talk Back, as we continue to discuss everything north of the river with our monthly visit from Pineville Mayor Clarence Fields. Mayor?
I'm going back to that gentleman asking about the once a week, trash pickup. I can appreciate someone calling in with suggestions, and that's what it's all about. And some that we may have looked at and all the above, but it's important for people to voice their opinions, and it's also people who, feel free to come by the office. We have those conversations, and we go through the nuts and bolts of, because when it's all said and done, it's the people that it impacts. So I can really appreciate people when they give those kinds of suggestions or whatever. So I don't take that very lightly.
Yeah, I always joke about this, and I use the same example. I'm a fan of Senator Cassidy because I feel like he views things outside the box, or he tries to come up with things outside the box. You do that on a daily basis.
Yeah.
How can we generate revenue from doing this without passing that on to our citizens?
Right.
Or how can we cut this without it really affecting our citizens, so on and so forth?
Well, unfortunately, to be very honest and upfront, and that's where it's up to us to educate people. It's hard to do what we have to do and not have an impact from a financial standpoint on our citizens or whatever. We have cut. We have really cut, and there's a point where you can't do that anymore without, like the gentleman talking about, or someone privatizing and doing things of that nature and whatever. And that's all. That's not all the time that's not the right thing to do all the time. So it gets pretty interesting. There's going to be some impact one way or the other, unfortunately.
Yeah. What I do want to carry that over, and we'll get right back to the ABC board in just a moment. But I want to carry that over. We had this discussion off the air, and I said, privatization of water. Here's where I would worry about if there was a privatization of water. Number one, you're going to have a company that's watching a bottom line, and that might impact quality. Yeah, you might have water that's not going to make you sick, but at the same time, it's almost like that commercial of, this water has an acceptable amount of lead for you to drink. I don't think that privatization is very good. I understand the privatization of electricity or things like that, because it's kind of either you turn it on and your power works, or you cut off and it doesn't.
But all privatization, you have to watch this. They'll come in with a bottom line price that's cheaper. And then 2 years down the road, they start raising
of course,
the rates.
yeah, that's how it's done.
Of course, the other part about that is the aftermath, maintenance, and things of that nature or whatever. But, it's something to always be looked at or whatever. But is it the right thing to do? Does it work? And in the long run, is it the right thing to do or whatever? So it's a pretty interesting discussion when you talk about things like that. And then the other thing also, I'm accountable when I say I, as to what the end result is, as to what people get. I remind people also pay very close attention. We send out an annual report on the quality of our water. By law, we have to send that out to every individual resident or whatever it may be that we provide water to, and it has what the condition of that water is, the level of iron and all those kinds of components that goes along with it or whatever. By law, we have to send it out because we're accountable for what we deliver.
All right, so let's when you were here last, you were talking about a board that you were in the process of appointing regarding the overseeing of all of the alcohol process and so forth. At the time, you were unable to give us those names. Who are those members, and how did you come up with this decision?
Okay, actually, at the time, I had 4 of those, and that was last month, and my intention was to make that recommendation to the City Council at last month's meeting, and I had 4 of those names, or 4 of the people who had agreed to serve on what's called the ABC board. It's the Alcohol and Beverage Commission. Their responsibility is to some extent, when somebody puts in an application, if someone contests that application because of whatever the issue may be, whether it's relative to being near a school and things of that nature or some other reason, then the Alcohol and Beverage Commission has the responsibility of hearing that complaint. And it's a very important board. It doesn't meet, weekly or anything of that nature. It only meets when there is an issue. For instance, after everything is said and done, if somebody violates or seemingly violates the ordinance, then the Alcohol Commission has the responsibility to hear that complaint, even up to the point of making some recommendation, and then the final say-so comes with the court, to be very honest with you. So the members of that commission that I will be recommending, by the way, all of the city council members are aware of, because I vetted these individuals as best as we possibly can, and we think these are important appointments. Right now, the recommendations are going to be Mr. Peter Ford, and by the way, all of these are currently city residents. They live inside the corporate limits of the city of Pineville. Mr. Tracy Altag, Mr. John Marcase, I think y'all may recognize that name. Miss Sandy McCoy, they have a business. She has a business on Main Street, and Miss Ruby Freeman, who's a local attorney. And but all of these individuals live in Pineville. I thought this would be a great group to handle their responsibilities accordingly based upon their expertise in some of the areas that they work in, but also, in that they would be fair in all the above. So hopefully we don't expect a lot of action by the Alcohol Commission and all the above.
If you never hear from them again, they're doing their job.
But it's in place because we want people to realize, those people who now have the responsibility of what they do, whether you're a packaged liquor, whether you're a bar or whatever, if you violate the ordinance or any things of that nature or whatever, you will be dealt with accordingly, according to the law.
I've never been the biggest board or commissions guy,
Right.
but I like this because it's new for you guys, and this puts, whereas the city council has enough things to worry about, they have to monitor everything. This puts 5 fresh pair of eyes on it to monitor this permanently and to make sure everything is going properly.
That was one of the keys in trying to do this. Matter of fact, when you go through the ordinance, there's a lot of reference to the mayor, the police chief, and if I could help it, I wouldn't want my name to be in there. Okay, but sometimes that's necessary or whatever. But I want to make it very clear that this is, and some people may say otherwise politically or whatever, but I want to make it very clear that this is not something that is going to be controlled by the mayor, or it's not going to be controlled, for lack of better words, by the city council. There is some responsibility for us, but all of the responsibility does not lie on this commission, because obviously we also have some input to the point as to what the information that they deliver and what the case may be and all the above. But I almost guarantee you, I know I won't. I'm not going to call up a commissioner and say, I need you to do this and I need you to do that. Follow the law. And that's what it's all about.
We'll be right back.
970 AM, 104.9 FM, KSYL.
And welcome back in to Talkback. Not sure what's going on with some of our returns, as there's a silent return, no music. I'll get with Dave Gratian on that as we continue with Pineville Mayor Clarence Fields. Before we get back to the mayor, I do want to remind folks that on tomorrow at 1 p.m., LSUA takes on Westmont in the NAIA Women's National Championship in Billings, Montana. And, of course, if you're not going to make it all the way up to Billings, you can listen to the action on one of our sister stations, ESPN 94.7 FM, or, of course, on the old 1410 AM format. Coverage starts Wednesday at 1 p.m. So LSUA women trying to win a national championship. Congratulations to the Lady Generals over there. Mayor?
Just a reminder, I think we've forgotten city council meeting.
That's right.
By the way, this evening.
That.
Legal committee meeting starts at 5 p.m. there is some zoning issues to be dealt with. Zoning commission meeting starts at 5:30, and then the actual city council meeting starts at 6 o'clock. There are a lot of annexation, but actually on the old business, there are about 4 annexations that are under old business. Those were introduced at last month. Obviously, a couple of them are tied to the alcohol issue, and then another's tied to mid-state properties, and hopefully that's going to be that's a piece of property on 165 where there's going to be like a doctor's building built and things of that nature. And then on the new business, there's some other, like I say, I'll make a recommendation to the city council on this evening as far as the ABC board is concerned. And, there's some other annexations, a couple of them are residential annexations, and then a couple of them are tied to the alcohol initiative. The Chevron on Highway 28 East, which is another Gary Barth establishment, is being introduced for annexation. That's the one out Highway 28 East, diagonally to our fire station on Highway 28 East. And then there's a piece of property located on off Highway 28 East again. There's a Mexican restaurant currently that's sitting on the back side of that property. Well, that entire 6.78 acres of land is being introduced for annexation also. So hopefully we'll see something happen there in the very near future.
Well, the condition used to be that Ward 9 out could sell stuff, and that was the only one that's academic now. So.
Yeah, exactly. So
let's take a phone call for the mayor. Good morning. You're on with Pineville Mayor Clarence Fields. Go ahead.
Good morning, Mayor Fields. This is Kirk.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Well, I'm fine. How's Rosa and Clarence Jr.?
They're doing great. Actually, Clarence Jr. just left from the house this morning, headed back to New Orleans, and then I think he'll leave Thursday, headed back to Minneapolis, Minnesota. So he came in Sunday, and so we had the pleasure of having him for a few short days. And Rosa's doing just fine.
I noticed they're tearing down some houses on Highway 28 East there. Do you know what's going to go in there?
Sure do, Mr. Kirk, on the and he's referencing to the corner of Owl Street and Highway 28 East. That is where actually it's next to the AutoZone, right down from the Walmart neighborhood market. There have been on that right side when you turn on the Owl Street, there have been 3 homes that have been purchased up and down Owl Street. And what's going to happen there, it looks like a pretty good sizable project, and that will be an automated car wash. Okay, I think it's interesting. Those are becoming very popular. I'll give you a perfect example. Sunday evening, about 2 o'clock, I went over to the one on 165, and obviously the pollen is everywhere and all the above. I'm not sure anybody really personally washes their car anymore, but I went there on 165, and I turned around and came back home and hand washed my car because it was double line out to 165. So that's what's going there, Mr. Kirk, for your information.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. We have several car washes a little farther out.
Right.
But one downtown area there should be very nice.
Yeah, it really will be.
To the Walmart and all, so.
Yeah, so but that's what that all took place several months ago, where that property was purchased, and those homes, which you have noticed, have been taken down, and you'll see that progressing very quickly here shortly.
Okay, I want to also bring up something for a lot of people.
Quickly, Kirk, we got a break. 30 seconds.
Okay, Louisiana College baseball and softball has a wonderful program. The LC girls are really doing good this year.
That they are. They've had a solid, and thank you for the call, Kirk. They've had a solid program for years and years and years. LC softball is kind of a powerhouse at that D3 level. We'll wrap it up with the mayor right after this.
970 AM, 104.9 FM, KSYL. Back to the conversation of Talkback. You're welcome to join in by calling 442-8255. That's 442-TALK.
Back here, final couple of minutes with Pineville Mayor Clarence Fields. Mayor, what did we leave out?
A couple of events I have. I definitely don't want to leave Doug out. Doug Gann. Doug is embarking upon something that's called the Fifth Saturday Market. Okay, there are 5 Saturdays annually for the most part. March, June, August, and November. On March the 30th, which is the 5th Saturday in March, he's looking at putting on an event called the Fifth Saturday Market, and hopefully he will take about a block and a half between Shamrock and just past the Main Street Community Center. Block that all, have live music, have vendors, have some crafts, and just kind of create an opportunity for people on a Saturday to come out and have a little bit of fun. So so hopefully we'll have some local musicians and things of that nature. So March 30th would be the kickoff of that, and Doug will be spearheading that, and food trucks, things of that nature. Our community police will be involved, and many others. So we'll get a taste of that this coming at the end of March, and see how we move forward with that. And kind of give you a teaser, something that could become a huge event. It's going to be called Planes Over the Pines, and what's that?
I'm really excited about this.
Yeah,
this is cool.
I really believe, if everything can be put together properly, and we get the participation that's necessary between England Air Park and Essler Field and the National Guard and all the above, is putting on an event, because obviously we're, from a military standpoint, and then we have Lake Beulah and all the above as far as the airport. Focus on planes, something that we're very used to in this particular area. So Doug's putting that together. We're looking right now preliminary October the 4th through October the 6th on putting on that event out at Essler Field. Airstrip and everything. So, I'm sure you'll see different kinds of air shows and things of that nature. But, a lot of people are jumping on board, and we're going to see if he can pull this off.
And, it's been a long time. I remember when you said this last week at North Rapids. It's been a long time since Central Louisiana had an air show. Yeah. So this is going to be a cool return to those days. If you remember when the old Cinlabration took place, when England was still here, they would do the air show then. But that's been, my goodness, 25 years ago.
Yeah, this is a bigger version, I guess you could say, because let me remind you also that the Pineville Airport, and they do some things relative to the EAA and putting on, local people coming in of some small air shows. But this is going to be inclusive of them, and something really, hopefully, big out at the that large complex out at Essler Field. So,
I have a feeling Congressman Abraham will want to be involved.
I would think so. I would think so. We're looking down the road to that, and Doug's biggest thing.
One thing, real quick, contingency wise, what about the dragon boat racing? Are you planning for an alternate site, and just in case?
I guess I'll find out very quickly as to what decision will be made on that.
Mayor Fields, as always, thank you for your time. For Mayor Clarence Fields and Jim Leggett, I'm Matthew Dunn. This has been Talkback. We'll see you tomorrow, folks. Take care.
You've been listening to Talkback 970. The views expressed were those of the host and callers, and not necessarily those of Sinlaw Broadcasting.